Hi again, I'm Randy Patterson, author of How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, and the Assertiveness Workbook, and How to Be Miserable in Your 20s. Click subscribe if you like this channel. Now today I'm going to talk about human needs and motivation, which is basically all about why we really do things. Given that psychology is the science of behavior, motivation is really central to the whole concept. And for many people, motivation is a problem. How do I get myself to do the things that I know I should be doing? And in clinical settings, many of the problems that we see have to do with wonky motivation. In obsessive compulsive disorder, for example, we might be motivated to check the locks on the door 10 times, even though we're perfectly capable of locking it the first time. Why does the motivation continue? In phobias and other anxiety disorders, our primary motive is usually to avoid things, but avoidance makes the problem worse, not better. And in depression, motivation tends to fade across the board like the tide going out, so that people don't really feel like doing anything at all. All of which is to say that needs and motivation are central, and there's lots to be said about it, but I'm going to focus today on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which you can also think of as a hierarchy of motivations. Needs and motivations are two sides of the same coin, even though sometimes we might need something but not feel motivated to get it. Or we feel very motivated to get something, like a hot car, that we don't really need. So there's a little bit of wiggly room between needs and motivations, but they're really related. Now, I'm one of those weird people, and there aren't that many of us, who knew what he wanted to do from childhood. I was headed for psychology right out of the gate. That or being a forest ranger. I'm pretty happy with the choice that I made, but some days I do suspect that I might have been a better forest ranger. Anyway, Maslow's hierarchy of needs was one of the first psychological ideas that I ran into in early high school. This was before the internet, so I really had to seek it out. He proposed the idea in 1943, and it became central to the human potential movement, which was a force in psychology in the 1960s and 1970s that emphasized human development rather than just eliminating mental disorder. Today's equivalent we would call positive psychology. Maslow knew, as everyone did, that human beings have all kinds of motivations, and some of them are stronger than others. He also thought that some of them block others if they're not fulfilled. They're more important. If you've ever played the card game Hearts, the hearts are a dominant suit in that game. If everybody plays another card and you play a heart, you automatically win that trick. Hearts come first. So Maslow developed a pyramid model consisting of 5 levels or layers. At the bottom are the most fundamental needs. If those aren't satisfied, the person, frankly, just doesn't care much about the others. These ones come first. Once they're dealt with, then the next level sort of comes online, and it becomes the primary driver of the person. For Maslow, physiological needs come first, the needs of the body: air, water, food, sex, sleep, warmth, and shelter. And right away you can see a problem with this 5-level model. Even within this one level, the drives aren't equivalent. If I cut you off from food and oxygen, you don't really care much about the food. You need air, and you will do almost anything to get it. So even within these levels, there's another hierarchy. Plus, they're not absolute. Lots of people do without sex, and they're not stuck at that level. They still go to work, they still have friends, they still pursue their other interests, and so on. And some people are more asexual, meaning that their libido or sex drive just isn't that strong, and they're perfectly happy to do without. But still, you can see the point. If you're really thirsty, it's hard to focus on your work project. Your mind keeps sliding over to that higher priority goal. I need water. You can override it to some extent, but there's a limit. Anyway, next level, safety and security. Here we're talking about things like your physical health. If you're really ill, it can be hard to focus on any of your other needs or plans. And your safety. If there are bombs falling in your neighborhood, it's a little hard to work on that novel you're writing. You don't really care that much. You just want to find a safe place. Now, this also includes freedom from abuse, freedom from violence. And to some extent, it can also include financial security, whether you can make rent this month, whether you can find a job that will sustain all your other needs, and so on. Now, you can see that this level is a bit more vague in some ways. If you have a job, but you're not making enough to save for retirement, does this completely prevent you from doing anything else? No. So although there are lines between each level, they're actually kind of blurry. These types of models are just trying to find some general trends in a confusing and conflicted situation. You cannot take the specific divisions too seriously. Now, those bottom two levels get grouped together as basic needs. They're fundamental for existence. Next level, love and social belonging. Human beings are social animals, and that means not only do we tend to do better when we have the chance to be around other people, but we also feel motive to do so. Thirst is the motive power that makes us drink water, and loneliness is the motive power that causes us to seek out other people. Ideally, at least. Sometimes people just feel lonely, but they have a hard time taking action. For Maslow, these are needs for being around family, being around friends, and experiencing some degree of emotional intimacy. Again, you can see the fuzziness of all this. Some people are extremely social. Others are hermits, and they seem to do just fine. People vary. Next level, esteem needs. And here, Maslow cheats a bit because there are really two levels here, and you can guess what they are just thinking about that name, esteem needs. Esteem from whom? Now, the lower form is esteem from other people, being looked up to. Hey, he's really successful. Look at her in her corner office. What a great car you've got. Look how many likes his social media posts have. By the way, you can subscribe to this. Anyway, while we're there, maybe you can sense how these models relate to real world problems. Our culture tends to emphasize some needs at the expense of others. And modern culture seems to focus a great deal on this kind of external, aren't I great, adulation from other people. It's the need for status and attention. But ultimately, it's pretty vulnerable. It depends on other people whose attention and high opinions of us cannot be relied upon. And although it can be a powerful motivator, it tends not to be satisfying or nourishing when we get it. We're like bottomless pits for this stuff. We never get filled up with esteem from other people. We never quite get enough. Now, the other type of esteem needs is more personally centered, a belief in yourself. And this isn't a belief in your own general awesomeness or thinking you have a giant within or somewhere or telling yourself what brilliant potential you have so you don't actually have to do anything. This has to do with genuine capability, real skills, actual competence, and independence, the sense that you can take care of yourself. The lack of this type of esteem is really central for a lot of people, especially people in early adulthood or those who are hikikomori, what we might think of as failure to launch, people who have delayed independence from caregivers. Now, the belonging and esteem needs are grouped together by Maslow as the psychological needs of a human being. So we've covered 4 levels so far, and some later elaborations of the model break these apart and add more bits, but those are the basics. And these 4 levels are all generally deficiency needs, meaning that they're motivated by the absence of the thing that you want. Not enough air, not enough water, not enough people, not enough personal capacity. And for the most part, if you satisfy them, the drive tends to fade. If you're thirsty and you drink a bunch of water, you don't want any more water right now. If you've been lonely and you hang out with a bunch of friends, eventually you're good. And you'll probably want a bit of time alone. Now, there are some things in this lower level that don't work this way, and we can think of them as being addiction-like. You've had quite enough alcohol, and you want more and more. You don't really need to be gambling, but the more you gamble, the more you want to gamble. The more porn you watch, the more porn you want to watch. The more time you spend on the internet or gaming, the stronger the desire gets. And the more you pursue validation by likes on social media, the more you come to depend on those likes and the more time you spend pursuing them. That's one of the characteristics of an addiction, a need that only gets stronger the more you try to satisfy it. So, next level, self-actualization. This means using your potential in actual activity, creating, contributing to the world, and achieving what you can. Not for the adulation of others, but as an expression of your full self. It's the turning of potential into reality. And for Maslow, this type of activity is different from the ones going before. This drive is, in a way, like the destructive drives of addictions. The more you engage in it, the stronger the drive tends to get. Initially, it may take a push to get yourself to do it. Work on your art, get yourself to practice the violin, train your body for the marathon. But as you continue, the drive tends to get stronger and support you in that activity. The difference is that the outcome isn't destructive, as with an addiction. It's beneficial in some way. It builds the person rather than wasting their time or tearing them down. So that's a quick review of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Hopefully it makes some sense. If you like videos like this, make sure to subscribe. And if you're interested in exploring how life can go wrong by the choices we make, take a look at my books, How to Be Miserable, 40 Strategies You Already Use, or How to Be Miserable in Your 20s. See you again.